All right, it's that time for an update. We haven't done an update on the mountains, the San Bernardino Mountains, in a long time. And it is time. It's time to do a fall update and talk about what's coming for this fall. And things are perking up there. Things are changing. There's a lot of weird rules in place right now. And we're going to cover all of them and talk about each lake individually. We're going to cover the whole San Bernardino mountain range, and that includes our friends down there south of Palm Springs, which is technically in the San Bernardino Mountains. So let's get to it. Let's start off at Big Bear Lake. What is happening up here? Well, right now we're dealing with a closure. So what closure do you mean if you've been living under a rock? Well, there's a forest closure up here. There's a federal forest closure. So what does that involve up here? Well, pretty much the whole North Shore is off limits. There are a few areas on the North Shore, and you would need a Forest Service map. There are some available online, and you can use those to determine what shorelines are open along the North Shore. But if you're over there in the next week and you're fishing near the dam, the Red House, or any of these other places that are popular right now, you are breaking the law right now. So hopefully that closure will end and you can access the shore. See, the problem is the water line, the high water line. So if we zoom in right here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's just zoom into a random shore area here. The high water line. So right here where you can see, well, okay, this will do. So from right here, if you look at my mouse here, right here in the middle, from there to there is okay. The problem is from the road to that high water mark is Forest Service land, and you cannot access the lake. So hopefully that will end as scheduled on the 17th. It's supposed to go away. A lot of people are saying that it's probably not, and it will be extended. So we'll update over on the Patreon side as to what's going on with that when the time comes. But for now, if you're not on the Patreon, you can just keep tabs on the Forest Service pages and they'll tell you what's happening. But yep, right now it is closed for the most part. But you can still access the lake by a few spots, including some boat ramps and on the water. Most of the South Shore is open to fishing, and that will not change because it's all city property, and you're good to go on the south side. There are a lot of access issues. So what's happening? What's going to happen? Well, right now, the fishing has been very, very good at Big Bear Lake. Unfortunately, that closure is interrupting that action, but as of late, the fishing has been pretty good. A lot of really small fish have been caught. Most of these fish are somewhere between 8 and 10 inches, which is under a pound, probably about a half a pound or so. And that was due to some large plants that went in for last year that are just kind of still lingering around. Now, the Water District claims that they've been planting the lake intermittently anyway, just not telling people about it. And we have no choice but to accept that they're doing that. And, I guess the action has reflected some plants are happening, but as to how much and when they're happening, obviously we don't know. The fishing has been in still summer mode. A lot of the fish are remaining from about Windy Point to the west and mainly hugging the surface early and then going deep late. The deepest they'll see is probably about 20, maybe 30 feet is a little bit much, but 20 feet. The happy spot for most of the day is around 10 to 15 feet. And if you're on a boat, you're doing a lot better than shore, obviously. Again, with the closures, that's difficult. But the action's going to stay down west for quite a while. There is a cool down coming next week, and hopefully that'll remain. And we'll just get into a fall pattern and everything will be good. But you know how it is. Southern California, we can see another heat wave. And if that happens, it'll definitely postpone the fall fishing conditions. So for right now, the lake is fishing great. The good news is they're still scheduling the Trout Fest. So the Trout Fest is still going on October 2nd and 3rd. Western Outdoors is throwing it pretty steep entry fees, and some decent prizes and such. But your choice whether you want to enter this or not. But the good news is these derbies do include some large plants. The last few years, last year did not go down, so kind of got ruined the last few years. But you know what? They're still planting for it. In 2018, if you remember, I caught a big old fish out of Big Bear, north of 10 pounds. And I'm pretty sure that fish was part of that derby plant. So they put in some nice fish for it. And I suspect there are still some really nice holdovers from past plants and just fish just getting big in the lake anyway. Yes, the water is down at Big Bear Lake, but don't go with the hype thinking it's record lows. It's not. It was a lot lower in like 2015, 16, and the water was a lot lower than it is right now. It's down. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's still probably about 15 feet in total lower, but it's probably on average, most years, it's probably about 8 to 10 feet down from most year water levels. So it's fishing great, guys. And the fall looks good here. There's plenty of water up there. I think the hot spots are going to be the same as they are historically. And I think it's going to be a great fall up there. And we're going to do a winter update. So once winter sets in, we'll start talking about that. But being that the first days of fall are coming, I thought we would do some updates. And here's your update for Big Bear. So with Big Bear, if you have any questions about the lake in general, please post up below. If you're new to fishing and you're looking for more details, head over to my Patreon. Links in the description below, and that's where you can ask all your detailed fishing questions. If you're new to fishing Big Bear Lake or trout fishing in general, that's a great place to go to get those questions answered. So, moving on to Lake Gregory. Lake Gregory just had a derby, not even a week ago. So about a week ago, last Saturday, and they dumped 2,000 pounds in here. They're not going to plant again until the weather cools a little bit. But I suspect with the new company here, Lake Gregory Company, taking over the concessionaire here up in the mountains, I think it's going to be just an amazing fall winter fishing season up here. Last year was incredible. I had such a good year up there, and so did so many. I talk to fishermen all the time saying it was some of the best fishing they've ever had, and they usually never catch much. And last year they just did so good. So I'm thinking that this year is going to be the same. Lake Gregory Company getting some awesome fish for the lake, and they're going to keep the action going. The action is, so right now. The water temps are still really high. This lake is about 2,000 feet, more or less, lower than Big Bear, and about the same elevation as Cajon Pass. So it is pretty much a desert lake, even though it looks kind of mountainous, but it is actually pretty deserty. It's really hot. They had highs in the middle 80s up there, so it's not by any means a cold water lake. And so it's going to take some time for this water to cool down, but the fall fishing, it's going to tail off more to winter, but they are supposed to stock for the fall. And the water clarity, even right now in the middle of summer, looks awesome. I'm up there regularly. I fish this lake all the time and keeping tabs on it for the Patreon reports. So, and I can tell you from today, I was up there today in the middle of the summer heat, and the water looks great. So whatever they're doing a fine job, because the lake is looking really good, and it's going to be an awesome fall. This is going to be one of the premier trout lakes this winter. A lot of people are probably going to gravitate up there, and that's fine. They got a lot of parking along the South Shore. They do charge for parking on certain spots. Right here on this spot here, over in this southeast corner, and over here on the north side, there's a couple of options as well. But for the most part, it's just going to fish very well. They put in some big fish. I caught quite a few over 4 pounds last year. And even people, like I said, that don't fish that well were doing very well and catching some monsters out of here. So they charge $10 to launch, and It's $10 to fish. So it's about a $20 a day to get on the water. They do not care where you launch your tubes and things like that. You can launch anywhere. This North Beach is considered a launch ramp. There is a sign up there depicting that. If you show up and you go up here and park, you can see that. Now, this isn't one of those places where you could back your boat down. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you could park your car here, unload your kayak or whatever, and walk it down and launch it here. There's actually a sign right around here that talks about that. But the only other spot you can launch is over here by the ramp, and you can launch here and park your car here. Now it's very limited parking, so I suspect in the heavy duty times it's going to be packed. So I suggest don't come out here with your 16-foot boat trying to launch. I don't think that's going to be allowed. But they do allow kayaks and small watercraft all day. They are heavily patrolling the lake now, and they do have rangers out here that'll collect your money if you don't pay online. There are options to pay online, so just do that. Have it on your phone, and if they come around to check, just do that. But it is going to fish well. I'm very excited for this fall here at Lake Gregory. So moving west along the range, let's go over to Silverwood. Silverwood Lake is going to be a question mark. Why do I say that? Well, they're really dependent on the Fish and Game plants. They get some private stuff too because it's state owned. And so the state will put in some massive private plants at times. I mean, it could be 5,000 pounds of fish that they can dump in here. And usually sometime around October, one of those plants happens. So I don't know. I'm really hoping that they're going to do that. Department of Fish and Game usually starts to plant the lake when the water cools, and that should be sometime in the late October, early November area. I remember last year they planted it real early. It was kind of a surprise, and it was way too warm for those fish, and some of them even died. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully they don't get too crazy and plant too early, but this is going to be another one. And this is a tougher lake. This is one of those that people show up and want to treat it like a park lake. Silverwood Lake is a massive lake. It's a very big lake. This is what I call big water. And it can be tough because the fish can move away real fast after they plant. They do plant. I mean, the only thing you have going for you as a new fisherman here is they do plant right here at the ramp. And at times they plant over here at this ramp when the water conditions allow it. So that's the only thing. So when they plant, if you can get here in the first few days of a plant, it's really good fishing in this area, and it could be quite fun. And there are some hiking trails along the south shore here that allow you access to other parts of the lake. And as well as over here, you can walk the shore pretty much all around over here and have a good time fishing. So great option to fish. The bonus, what I really like about Silverwood trout season is it brings on striper season. And because the striper, if you're not familiar with them, are a striped bass, and they are very aggressive eaters. And when they put the trout in this lake, it drives them crazy. And so the good thing is you can come out here and do both. You can target both fish simultaneously and get a limit of trout and then go straight in and target striper. But you have to be very clear about that you're targeting striper. Otherwise you will get fined for catching another trout. So don't do that. But you can fish for both here, and it makes it exciting. They even have a really good catfish population here. So it's going to be an awesome fall here. It usually is. Last year was not quite as awesome as the prior year. Going into the pandemic, they had much better fishing. Like the 2018-19 were just amazing. It was incredible. Probably will never be beaten. But the last few years have been still pretty good. I heard that they might be doing brown trout here again. I don't know if they will or not. I mean, we'll just have to wait. But that's the word. That's what I'm hearing, that they're looking at doing some brown trout. And that would be really awesome. Let's move over to Jenkins Lake. If you saw my metal detecting video, then you know the Jenkins Lake, this is not too inaccurate right here, but Jenkins Lake is extremely low on water. Right here where this grass is ending right here, the water is actually, the shoreline's like right here. It's just a puddle of water right now. It is a puddle. And they're working on the flume to fix the lake. What is a flume, you ask? Well, a flume is basically a water source that is artificially channeled. And you can see the drainage right here, this little channel. Right through here, there's a flume that runs all the way from up high up in the mountains. And if you notice, it goes right through the burn areas here. And from the El Dorado fire, this is actually a pretty recent photo to have that burn in there. But as you can see, it burned a lot and it was affected by the fire. So this whole area just got scorched. And the area right around the lake is actually doing pretty well. This did not get burned. A lot of people thought it did, but it didn't. But the problem is the water is really low. So what's looking like is no good. There are bass in the lake. There's these tiny little bass and a couple of bigger bass in there, but there's no trout plants. And I've heard from multiple sources that there will be no trout plants until next spring. They're hoping for a good winter and to have that flume fixed and to fill this lake up and bring it back to its glory. So hopefully that'll be the case next year. And if it does, it'll be a great option in our local mountains. This is a tough one for me because I really love Jenkins Lake. It's one of my favorites that I, grew up fishing and really learned a lot about trout fishing right here at Jenkins Lake. So what a shame, but next year looking good. So don't even bother. Over here in Aero Bear, California. Here you go, Aero Bear Lake. What is Aero Bear? Well, Aero Bear is a small little pond that they do stock trout in. But right now you're looking at what is going on up there. It is drained. There's no water in it. So it's going to take a nice winter for that to become something that's fishable. And otherwise, nothing going to be doing there. It's done for probably at least next year. I don't know. It takes a good winter for that thing to really get full. They never planted it this last fall. So that's a shame. Hopefully that'll be back because that was a fun little spot at times. Now, here's a big one. This is one of those kind of a wild card in the San Bernardino Mountains. Lake Hemet. Lake Hemet has been making a huge recovery from not really just water problems, which they have, but fish plant problems. They just weren't getting them. They weren't getting the plants. And just in the last couple years, man, they have been doing a great job planting this place. They're putting Mount Lassen in here, and they're not just putting like 100 pounds like a lot of these cheap lakes when they brag about it. Nope, not 400 pounds, not 1,000 pounds. They've been putting like 3,000 to 4,000 pound plants of Mount Lassen in here, and that's incredible. They plant these fish over here on the east side, and in the fall, they disperse along the shorelines. Now, the only downside to Hemet is they do not allow float tubes. They do allow kayaks, and they do have boats for rent at times, and they have a nice campground. Another problem with the lake is the south shore. This whole shoreline is off limits. You will not be able to fish this whole shoreline from shore. And why? Because you can't get to it. You can't get there. If you take a boat across and park it, then you can maybe do that, I guess. But if you have a boat, you're not going to need to park your boat. So from shore, you only have two options. Basically, you can fish the campground pay side of the lake. And that runs right here. So you see this fence right here? That separates the pay. So this side is part of the campground side. And this side is what you call from here all the way to road's end. This is the day use side. So the Forest Service side. It's my assumption right now that this is probably all closed because it's part of the Forest Service. But it is what it is. So hopefully this will all be open in a couple of weeks. And you know what? It will anyway. They're going to end up opening this up. It's just a matter of time. But they really have been planting good. I suspect they're going to do the same this fall. The only problem is the intermittence in which they're planting is kind of slow. They're planting once, and then they don't see any more plants for like a couple of months. So the good news is that it receives heavy pressure maybe I would say the first week of the plant, and then after that, there's no one up there. And you can go. I was up there fishing it like a month after a plant last year, and I did very well. And there was nobody else out there. It was very slow fishing pressure wise, but the fishing was great. So don't be turned off by it. I know, for a lot of us though, it's really far. This lake is like 2 hours from my house. I mean, it takes so long to get there, but an awesome lake to go to. We'll see good things coming from there, I think. Lake Fulmer, which is another fun one in the Riversides portion of the San Bernardino Mountains, over here off the 243 it's kind of like a Jenkins Lake 2.0. They're supposed to plant this lake, and last year got a couple of plants, but they've been really lagging on the plants here, and that has to do with the hatchery issues. But the good news is those hatcheries are back online, and so hopefully that'll change. This lake has suffered a little bit of the water issues, but this is a really good inflow creek here, and it tends to maintain its water levels. So we'll see. Maybe they'll plant this fall. If not, they will in the spring, and we'll cover it when it does. But for right now, there is no fish in there because of the lack of hatcheries. They just haven't been planting it. So there might be a couple of bass swimming around in there. And but otherwise, you're not going to see much action out of Fulmer. So anyway, that's going to be it for the San Bernardino Mountains. Again, there's some creeks up here. There's some other spots, but that's not something I just include here on YouTube. We do talk about that stuff over on Patreon. So if you have any questions and you want to know about these little creek spots or other low-key spots, as they say up here in the San Bernardino Mountains, definitely stop off on Patreon. We do a weekly fishing report. I'm updating all the time. And, you can always go over there. There are some honorable mentions. Let's talk about one last spot before we close it out. Green Valley Lake. Now, why do I leave Green Valley Lake for just an honorable mention? Because it's technically a private lake. It's not part of the San Bernardino, mountains. I know like the county lake, Lake Gregory is county, but the problem is Green Valley is about to fall off. They stopped planting this lake ahead of the fall, so there's really not going to be much to talk about. They're more of a spring, summer lake. They are planting it. They have planted recently, and they'll probably plant maybe one time more, but they usually shut their plants off in early October, if not late September. They're usually done for the season. So I think that's a shame. I think Green Valley should rethink that and maybe come back and start planting all the way until the lake freezes. I don't see why that's a big deal. But whatever reason, that's what they do. Maybe they just don't want to deal with it. I don't know. But yeah, it's just not a fall lake. So that's why we don't do too much of it and give it, in the mix. But it is an honorable mention. And there are some options there right now, but it is still summer. And you might even see a straggler fish there or two through the fall. But mostly it won't be something you want to target or make a family day of it, because they don't plant through the fall and winter. So anyway, that's going to be it, guys. So if you have any questions, post up. We're here for you. And get out there, get the family out and fish. That's why I do these updates. I want to see you guys out there on the water, and see you in the comment section below. If you guys have any questions, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.